It just happens that WUS tours are full of stars who turn out to be Canadian leaders in business, in politics, in education, in medicine, in law, in all different fields.
I think we were all very naive, very, very naive. And although I thought at the time I was fairly cosmopolitan, after 3 years of university, this trip really did it. I mean, it upended and opened up a whole lot of things,
I was a little shaky on where Africa was, but when I heard the seminar was in Ghana, I thought, this does sound very, very interesting. I'd like to know more, because I'd been doing a little bit of work in international relations. And so I applied and was lucky enough to get nominated.
When I was at the end of my first year, we had that in 1957, a competition. 90 guys applied to become a representative of the university, and they choose 4. And there they said to me, why do you want to go to Africa? I said, I've always dreamed to become a doctor to help other people. And that will give me a chance to see what's wrong, what I can do, So they chose me, and I went to Africa with the group.
I guess I'd always been intrigued by Africa and the wonderful stories of exploration and culture, and it had a kind of mystical attraction. But in order to get on the WUS seminar, it was necessary to do some research, to brush up on various facts, and particularly, of course, of Ghana.
I think it was more excitement than anything, because I had been the chair of the World University Service on the campus that previous year, and we had brought, through the WUS program, which is still continuing, of course, we brought a wonderful young woman as a student to the campus. So Beatrice became sort of a part of my own family, and so I knew quite a bit about the country from her, and so I was really anxious to go there.
And the idea that I was going, nowadays it's a very ordinary thing to go, but maybe less to Africa, and it was just a very exciting opportunity. And of course, Africa was evolving very rapidly then, with countries becoming independent, including Gold Coast and Nigeria, which we were visiting.
I was going to Africa, so I had to be prepared. After watching Tarzan movies, I had pots and pans, things to live in the jungle and so forth. And of course, none of that materialized. And then from there, we met the group and proceeded on to England and then on to Africa.
Well, the voyage essentially involved 31 university students from across Canada, 7 or 8 faculty from across Canada, and about 8 or 9 Americans, faculty and students. And the purpose of the trip to Ghana and Nigeria initially was to see an emerging nation. In March of 1957, Ghana achieved independence, and we were there to observe, I guess, an emerging nation was the thrust of the seminar at that point.
We still had the memories of the World War, and Europe still had damage. We stopped in London on the way over, and there were bombed out buildings all over the place, and streets with scaffolding holding them up in London.
The London seminars, in the first few days of that, it was over my head. I wondered why we were having them. I didn't really probably understand them very well. I have a recollection of being like a fish out of water. It got to be more comfortable as we had them. I also was then slowly identifying, people that I could sort of relate to in the group, because remember, the group came from all over Canada.
And then moved on to, landed in Lagos in Nigeria eventually, and spent some time at the University College of Ibadan. And it was at that point that we picked up the counterparts of the people from other countries, the Nigerians, the Ghanaians, I believe there were students there from Egypt, students or professors at least from South Africa, which of course at that time was a different part of the world. It was overwhelming I had never experienced anything like this before, and as a 21-year-old at the time, to be quite honest, I didn't appreciate the significance of what I was experiencing. I couldn't appreciate the magnitude of it.
Part of the thrill of the seminar for us, a young person, I was 18 at the time, was meeting people, students from all across Canada. And Louis Perenbaum, who was our eminence grise on the seminar, he was the director, and he was someone we all looked up to. He was an ultimate role model. And he mentioned that when I, Evelyn, got off the plane, age 18, the BOAC plane in Lagos, Nigeria, and I looked around at Africa for the first time, and my jaw dropped. I was in awe. I was grateful to WUSC for giving us the opportunity to come as fairly naive Canadians to a culture that worked so hard for everything that it had and everything that it needed. We cherished every moment there. We found the people warm and friendly and welcoming to us.
This overwhelming humidity, the heat, the noise, the vibrant sort of activity going on. And we had a quick tour around, including some of the slums. My gosh, is this the way people live here? It was quite an eye-opener.
Anybody coming from the industrial world, of course, it really broadens your experience of human life in a way which you can't get just by reading books or watching movies. And you're suddenly confronted with a lifestyle and some poverty and some richness which you would never be able to get without actually having the opportunity to go there and see it.
What amazed me the most was I found a community of young people who were interested in peace, racial justice, and equality, and that was very enlightening for me. And it made the world seem a little better place for at least a moment in time.
My best experiences were with the African people, the students that we had met. They were so eager to learn things and to communicate with us and so forth.
I think what I most remember is the extraordinary exuberance and enthusiasm of the Ghanaians. It was just a tremendous moment in their history, having been the first African country to become independent from the old colonial empires.